also realize you need to lead strong, because sometimes that's all that's going to be looked at. We're only going to click on that first project. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's kind of one of those things. Don't send me an email, send me a text. Let me give it to me, in bite size where I can look at it and see if it works. So those are basically the resume and the portfolio. Those are, so you do need the digital and you do need the hard copy, and you need to basically be aware of how those are presenting. And I've seen some beautiful portfolios through the years, beautiful, where they've taken it, they formatted it, it's gorgeous. And so there is a lot. And if you really want to stand out and you're like, this isn't something that I'm that even great at, or that work with, there's the other departments in your colleges are going to be in digital layout and things like that, because that's what you're doing. You're designing little design boards with that portfolio and with how it's all laid out. And we're looking at that. We're looking to make sure it's balanced. We're looking at all of that. Okay, so on where you want to go, and let's just talk about the interview real quick. Obviously, they're kind of nerve-wracking. Totally get that. This is a trick, and it's going to be kind of hard to do it on Zoom, but I'm going to do it like this. When you get there, go to the bathroom. Check in with the receptionist. Always get there early. Always get there early. Always get there early. Check in with the receptionist and check in, and then say, where's the restroom? Go to the restroom. Check your appearance to make sure you made it from the car into the building and you still are all put together. The wind didn't blow your hair out or something, you don't have his hair sticking up like that or something. It's all, so go to the restroom, check your appearance. The other thing that you're going to want to do in the restroom, and this actually works, it seems silly, but it does work, is you actually bring your arms up above your head and you make yourself as big as possible, like a big X, like you make yourself a big X. That actually gives you, it does, it works. I know it's like weird. So yes, do it in the restroom, make sure everybody there doing a stall, but it basically gives you, it physically makes you bigger, and it basically will give you confidence to actually say, okay, I can do this. I'm in charge. I can do this. And so that's if you really have a bad case of nerves. So that is something, it's basically make a big physical X, and it works. And then the other thing, if you're really kind of anxious, do the breathing thing. It's, breathe in and hold it. You breathe in for a count of 7, you count to 7 and breathe in. You hold it for 4 and you breathe out for 7. You do that a couple of times, that lowers your heart rate. And it keeps you from being anxious because it lowers your heart rate and it gets you back in control. So those are 2 physical things. Okay, now appearance. What you're going to want to do is you're being evaluated on how you look. Not how you look here, it's just how you have put yourself together. This does not mean you have to have a designer bag, or that's not what this is about. This is, you have to be neatly dressed, and I have seen it all. That's why I'm saying this. Some people are like, oh, of course I would dress up for an interview. I've seen people that really haven't, and I'm like, really? Did you think really? That's what you came in wearing? And whereas, we work for high-end, we're a high-end residential firm, and you came in basically in one step above jeans and flip-flops, nah, you're not going to get the job. And so you have to look at who you are interviewing with. So you want to actually check out their website, check out their vibe, okay? So if they are like Dallas Design Group Interiors, that's us, yeah, you're going to want to dress up. Now, thank you that actually everything has gotten more casual in the past years anyway. We're not in suits and heels anymore. But we are still a dressier type of firm. And so you're going to want to dress appropriately to reflect that. Now, what if you're going to the real edgy firm that is casual and has the ping pong tables in the area, and they're just really casual and laid back? You're going to want to actually reflect that, because you don't want to walk in there all buttoned up and go, oh, I read this wrong. And because they'll be like, I don't think she's going to be a very good fit. She's not going to work with the rest. That's what they're looking at. We're looking for people that will work and fit within what is the established kind of concept and the established feeling for the office. And so that's what we are looking for. And so the way you present yourself, that actually matters. And that means make sure your hair's done, make sure your makeup's done, make sure your nails are done. That is, I know this is a pet peeve of mine, but I had one girl come in an interview and her fingernail polish was all chipped. And I was like, oh, no. And it's not because, well, it was because that meant that she didn't have an attention to detail. And so, and the other thing with interior designers, we point at everything in front of our clients. We point at fabrics, we point at tile, we point at slabs. So believe it or not, your hands are being looked at. And this, though, you don't have to go get a professional manicure. Just make sure that that they're clean and the chipped nail polish is off. So that's, it's attention to detail. And what I want you to take away from this, it's everything that I'm telling you about interviewing and how you present yourself when you're interviewing, you will be doing this as you go through your career. Because every time we go in front of a new client, we're interviewing again. I can interview some. If I've got 3 new clients in a month, I'm interviewing 3 new times. Do I dress the same for every single client? No. Do I Google every single client? Yes. Do I get an idea of what would make them feel comfortable? Yes. Do I reflect that? Yes, I do. Because we're about being aware of who we're, and you only get one chance to make a first impression. And that's it. It really is. Even things like, I remember one girl came in, actually she was really good. And but her coat had lint all over it. It was during the winter. It had lint all over it. And I was like, okay, you might want to have lint rolled that before you walked in, because it's attention to detail. And that's what we do. It's a part of what we do as an interior designer. We have attention to detail. Okay, so we'll get off that. Now, after you get the interview, okay, so you've got a fabulous resume, you've got a fabulous portfolio, you got in, you got the interview, it was great, you had a great interview, you did all of those techniques, so you had a good interview, and go online. There are typical questions that many, many people ask, and you can literally go online and Google typical interview questions. A lot of them will come up. And sometimes it's what would you say your greatest strength is? What is your greatest weakness? Google those, look at them, and just so you have an idea so that you don't get caught flat-footed. And we also have tons of resources on the event website. So that's another thing. So you want to actually Google those so you have kind of an idea. Okay, something else on your resume that I was going to say. Always put your extracurricular stuff on there. I'm always looking for that because I expect whoever's going to interview them, I expect them to have a degree. I expect them to have a degree. I expect them to have, done pretty well. Everyone should have about the same technical abilities. You should know Revit, you should know Excel, all of that stuff. Y'all all should have pretty much that same thing. So I'm now looking at the things that will set you apart from the other girls, or the guys. And so I'm looking at what's going to set you apart. Many times that is, I volunteered. I was a volunteer. I was in ASID. I won something. I won an award. That's actually pretty important. That tells me that you had enough get up and go to actually do that and win an award on a student level. And so, and things like photography. We interviewed one girl, and she actually had a minor in photography, and the thing about it is what we went, oh, that's going to be somebody that's good at Instagram. are really good at social media. If you're at a smaller firm, they're not going to have a full-time social media person. If you happen to be really good at that, you know, you can, put it in there. Talk, oh yeah, and also I would love to help out with the Instagram or things like that. Look at things that can actually help a firm out that they would need, that they might not have that full-time person, and that would be the social media person. So that's another idea. Okay, so you've done your interview, you looked fabulous, you gave a fabulous interview, you had a fabulous resume, you had a fabulous portfolio. So now you got follow-up. That's actually important. So after you meet them and then you actually send that follow-up email. Thank you very much. It was such a pleasure meeting you. And you can go online too. There are literal, here's a follow-up email. This is something that you can cut and paste. Such a pleasure meeting you. What are the next steps? Things like that. If they didn't, so follow-up. That's extremely important. You can do a fabulous interview and then just disappear off the face of the earth. Well, guess what? They might have gotten really busy and your name just fell through the cracks. So that you do have to follow up. Now, something else that I will say that I have always actually enjoyed and thought, put a check by their name, are the people that actually send the thank you notes, the actual written thank you notes. That's actually always really nice. It is because the follow-up email is a given. That's a given. That is expected. But the ones that actually send that handwritten, it was such a pleasure meeting you. I'm looking forward to working with you. I've always enjoyed your work, whatever. Those have actually been like, oh, hey, what happened to her? Hey, oh, she did good, so you are trying to set yourself apart from others. And those are all techniques and tips to do that. And so then we are going to, sorry, I'm looking at okay, so I'm doing good on time. Okay, something else. You're going to want to use anybody and everybody that knows anybody and everybody that will work at a firm that you want to get into. If you have the ability to do your internship at the firm that you want to work at, do it. That is the best way to actually get hired into a firm. So start looking now, because because many times you have that class where you have to actually do an internship. Find out which firm you want to actually work for when you get out and when you graduate, and actually try to get in as an intern to that firm. If you cannot get into it as an internship to that firm that you wanted to get the next best one. Because, so say you said, okay, I want to go to firm A that does fabulous hospitality and they're the biggest name in this market. Well, maybe they were already full up on their interns, so you didn't get in there. But who's their competitor? Who would be the other firm in that market that actually would be their competitor and that does the same type of project, or just does the same type of project, but it's it's pretty much at the same level? Try to get in with them, because when you get out of school and you start interviewing, you will say, worked at blah, 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 and that perks their ears up. So it's like, oh, you worked at another same level as what we are. So we know you got good experience. We know you got good training. If you don't know if you want to do commercial or residential and you're still trying to decide, if you can do an internship at both of them, one commercial, one residential, that will really help you decide. And that's it's a beneficial thing if you're still trying to figure out which direction you want to go, because they're two different types of animals. So if you are on the fence, try to get an internship at one or the other, because it will actually help you decide at which direction you want to go. All righty, I think I'm going to actually throw it over to Kathryn right now.
Hey y'all, sorry, I had to put a scarf on. My neck was getting chilled. I don't know what's going on with our AC today. Thank you, Lisa. That was so informative. I guess I'll start with I've got my little cheat sheet too that I'm going to be looking over at to keep me on track. For those of you who don't know my story or my bio or background, I've got a great blog post that's PDF'd and linked in our resources thing that kind of talks about me moving from design school, which design school in itself was a second career. I went back to school for that, which is a whole nother story. But we goes from internship with Looney and Associates, was working on it, being hired from within, to contract. I moved to contract work, working hourly, and then in hopes of becoming a junior designer with them in their FF&E, which is the furniture, fixtures and equipment. So I call it the pretty stuff, but there's a lot of detail and technicals to it. So don't think it's fluff and pillows all the time. From there, but I unfortunately got really ill and I lost the job, and an able-bodied designer took over. And I, at the time, thought that was like my life was over. But somebody, which Lisa, you don't know this either. This is funny. I was terrified of Lisa Barron as a young designer. I know, because you have a strong personality, but I knew you've never heard this, but it's just, you know, you get intimidated by people and by professionals. So I've luckily been working with her over the years through ASID and volunteering, and, you know, you just get to know somebody. So don't ever write off that person because somebody who I thought she couldn't stand me or I was really bugging her as an intern, she ended up making the connection to me working for Paul. And I was like, she was always so mean to me. It was like, no, she's just busy. Maybe she was going through a divorce. I don't know. Like, we don't know what's going on. You know, we've all got personal lives and stuff going on. But yeah, so just, that's another good lesson, I think, when it comes down to it. But when I first interviewed with Paul, I'll tell some personal stories about that because I think it's fun to hear other people's interview tips. And I went to work for Paul Dusing Partners, which is a super high-end residential private resorts, multifamily and hospitality company. And at the time, I was like, I walk in, I get my interview. I'm supposed to be interviewing with our senior interior designer, Vanessa Redmond, who's there at the time. And she got food poisoning the day of. So I walk in and they're like, oh, crap, you have an interview. And not to say they weren't prepared, but it was coming right out of the big recession, and they had really scaled back the firm to just really the skeleton crew of vital designers. And the main architect at the time, Jennifer Moots, was the one at the front desk, and she was like, who are you and what are you doing? And I was just like, I'm here for my interview. And she's like, oh, great, I'll call Paul. And I was like, sorry, guys, I can reschedule. So it was very flexible, and not to put any negativity on them. It was just a miscommunication. So that might happen too. And I think that's fairly important because these people are all doing their jobs too, and they obviously need the help. So that's why they're interviewing people. But I go back to Paul after waiting in the conference room awkwardly for like 15 minutes by myself, like looking over my stuff, just getting more and more nervous. And I did exactly what Lisa did. I go to the bathroom, like take a breath and wash my hands and kind of look over my stuff and go back there. If you've not heard of him or seen any of his stuff out there, impeccable work, but just a very laid back, breezy kind of a guy. And of course, I'm still nervous because I barely know him, but I've done as much research as I could at the time. This was pre-social media and their work on putting lots of stuff out there for the public. But I sit down and I have my resume printed, and he's like, oh, I already have it. And I was like, perfect. Well, do you have any questions for me? And he's like, no, not really, but I do want to see this portfolio. I tried to pull it up and I couldn't, and I had already PDF'd it and I put it on an iPad. And I go, perfect. And I pulled my iPad out and I handed it to him. And he goes, what's this? I'm like, you're giving me an iPad? I'm like, no, this is my portfolio. So I had it all pulled up, ready to go. So he just turned it on and it was there. And he scrolled through the pages just like it would have been flipping through a book. And he kind of looked and he was like, light bulb, I'm going to do this with our clients. And he started giving them iPads. And that was to win huge hotel jobs. So I guess we kind of helped spark an idea for him. But needless to say, I was also, very nervous. I answered all his questions right, I guess. And we hit it off. But the funniest one that he still laughs about to this day is I was like, so tell me about you, Paul. I read you went to Oxford University in England to study architecture, and then you practiced in London for many years. I too studied in Oxford, Mississippi, which is where I went to undergraduate school for English and psychology. So making those little connections and kind of those, jokes that could really show that you could take on, working with clients and doing your own thing, really just shows you know, how you are and how you're skilled and qualified in many ways. So we've currently got a lot of projects in our office right now for my company, Kathryn Nelson Design. We call it K&D, kind of Paul's was PDP was the nickname. So I kind of followed suit and did K&D for everything. But I reached out, we started in February of 2018, and then officially, you know, I took some time off to set everything up business-wise, but long story short, we had our first client by May, and by August, I was like, oh God, I need help. I was really happy to say that and proud to say that, but I didn't know where to go. I wasn't gonna go put a bunch of public stuff out there because I didn't want to take more time and more work to go through everybody. So I literally went a different route, and I called up Lisa Talbot at Dallas College, El Centro campus, one of my favorite teachers and the lead of the interior design program at that time, and said, who are your superstar students? Who's looking for work? And I'm not registered yet. So that's going to be a hurdle to jump through because they might be wanting to sit for NCIDQ and I can't give them the full credit of hours. So that's a whole nother thing that you guys need to do some research on, and you'll learn about that and, you know, the student groups and emerging professionals. Thanks for joining us, Anne. But yeah, so I reached out and she goes, well, there's this girl named Heather Nunez and she's just graduated in 2016 and she's your vibe. She's your personality. And I did it very casual. I actually did a phone interview with her and we just kind of talked. And of course she sent the resume and everything, sent me a portfolio. I requested a portfolio and she goes, oh man, I haven't updated it since school. And I go, that's okay. And she sends it within an hour with all of her recent work and projects for this other designer she was working for. So that showed me she could make mood boards at the last second when we need to do something. So she showed all the right things to me. And that's why I go, this is a go-getter who really wants it. She's going to do this for our company if she's, you know, loves her job. So yeah, so she started, like you heard about in Lisa's great office tour, we promote from within. So I'm proud to say, you know, she's now, you know, going on 2 years and she just got, you know, pay raise and title change. So her email signature, she's now, you know, from junior designer to project manager and interior designer. And she's literally leading our first official install without me over at the Dallas Hacienda, is one of our biggest clients and developers. So shout out and kudos to her, but she's being helped by the lovely Iwana Bates, who also is an El Centro campus, Dallas Community College grad, where I went to school. So that's why I always like to talk to her. But she was friends with Heather, but they weren't best friends. They were just classmates and they worked really well on collaborative group projects. And they both were second career change. So they've got that mentality that was similar to me. So, you know, think about who you're working for and what can really fit your personality, but also just be honest. And, you know, I loved working with Paul all those years, but it was the travel that just really got to me. And I knew it was my time to kind of spread my wings and move on. But we keep saying this, don't burn bridges, because everything happens for a reason and you learn so much everywhere. So I left on good terms to go off on my own, which is absolutely terrifying, but thankfully it's all been working really well for us here. And we love Iwana. Iwana's coming in now part-time, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Today we obviously switched it up for Symposium, so she's off tomorrow, but she's working hourly and hopes to, you know, come on a salary if she wants to do that, stay with us. So, you know, as a boss, I'm maybe not as traditional as some other people are, because I am thinking I want to teach you everything I know so that you can go off and do this for yourself one day, but you're not ready yet. And don't leave me, not yet. But I feel like that's what Paul did for me, and that's what I'm trying to pay forward and try to do for my employees. I guess I've got a couple of horror stories which are kind of fun to tell for interviewing. I did one back in the day before going back to design school. I was interning for Modern Luxury Magazine, and we did the Dallas Interiors launch. I did a big party on the event side, and I go, oh, I want to do luxury event planning. So I went to an interview after my internship ended there, and realized I want to work for like this really cool firm. I've seen them throwing all the big lavish parties, obviously pre-recession, when people had a lot of money to do that kind of stuff. But I go in and it's one of the lead event planners that does the interview, and I have my printed resume, you know, all the right steps like Lisa was talking about. But the guy was a jerk, and I'm not gonna say what company, but he just was. And then it made me realize I'm so glad I don't work there, because he was like, what size round table is that? What is this? What is that? And he just put me on the spot like I was supposed to know all this. And I'm like, that's what I'm going to learn while I work for you. So, you know, that I just kind of was a red flag. And then he also, you know, if you put a language on your resume, know what you're saying and know that you're fluent. And because he literally started talking to me in Spanish, and I was like, oh, and I tried to like broken Spanish reply back to him, because he literally was like going down the list, like trying to put me on the spot and test me. And I was like, okay, maybe I should put Spanglish. And he's like, just take it off your resume altogether. And I was like, oh, okay. So instead of doing languages, you know, I know, you know, when we had our great our roundtable yesterday with Kristen Hamburg, she and Erica said, don't put your travel, but I say I do, because that helps me know that, you know, when we take on an international project one day, you're comfortable traveling. You're comfortable being on your, like by yourself in a foreign country. This is not your first time to go through a passport check. So I see that as a plus. So that's where I tend to disagree, but they're also way higher up in their careers than I am. So, you know, this is a great time for you if you have the resources to go travel and to see some of these places, depending on where you work. And it could be contemporary, you know, modern buildings in Dubai, or it could be super classic palaces in Europe, but depending on the firm you go to. I was gonna say, I think, sorry, I'm looking down my list of stuff to think. Lisa, I feel like, do you want to kind of, do you have any areas that feels like anybody is having questions about still?
Do any students have any questions?
I'm actually coming back to design school after having a career. Also, I have many years of experience working in a master's degree in business. Wow. This is from Jay Wilcox. Is this past experience good to show on my resume, and does it turn people off when it comes to looking for a position after graduation? No, I say put everything. That's incredible.
And especially since it's the business part of it, because 50% of this, a good 50% of what we do is business. And so actually being able to see one of my best design associate that I ever had, he actually had on his resume, he had his original degree had been in accounting, and I just was like, okay, yeah, you're hired, just because it was accounting. And because the fact of having somebody that has that left brain aspect is so beneficial and helpful when it comes to what we do, because a lot of what you do is when it comes to project management has a lot to do on being able to organize and think through things and do all of that type of stuff. So yes, I would definitely put any business or any other degrees on there, because my original degree was in theater. This was my second what is that, career as well. Second career as well. I mean, I originally was I was in theater. I still tell clients about my original degree because I was a set designer, and I was also an actor, but I just pushed the set design part because I'd always done design. And so I did set design, and then I actually, like I say, I decided I didn't want to be a starving artist and went back and got my interior design degree. And I am a registered interior designer, and I've passed the NCIDQ and all of that as well, which is really important and for you guys to be thinking of and getting prepared for. And I'm just going to put a plug. I'm sure somebody's done it already, but check out the well movement and the well design. That is something that's really, really great if you could get your certification now, and that would be awesome. What is your job?
So
internships despite the challenges.
I can take this one because I was going to respond to that, because this is also crazy. So I interviewed Iwana with a phone call, not a FaceTime, but I'd already met her at the El Centro or Dallas College senior student exhibit. So that was her first impression, and she already sold me. I couldn't hire anybody at the time. So I knew, and Heather was tapping me, I go, I asked Heather to help look for people and ask fellow students that she would want to work with, because we're a small little ship here, but we do a lot of work. We work hard, we play hard. And I'm not just going to hire someone because they can check all the boxes, because we're such a personal vibe and that's how we work. But Iwana we're all remote. Like, I'm working from home, from our home office. Iwana signed an NDA. She filled out her W-4. She filled out all the paperwork. She signed, my employee contract that kind of goes over all of what I'm asking of them by, taking a chance on them. But then also, you may be expected, if they supply a laptop to you, to sign a property waiver saying that if you damage anything or if you steal this laptop, that you owe us, and everything signed and DocuSigned to protect the business owner, because that's lots of money that they're risking putting into your hands. But that might be the new norm. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're still constantly working, and we're screenshotting and sending texts and FaceTiming. We love using WhatsApp. If you know how to use WhatsApp, a lot of your contractors are going to try to work with you that way, because it auto saves all of the pictures from site. So just practicing using that with your friends is even good advice, I'd say, because if you can say, you could list that as one of your softwares, and an international designer is going to say, oh, good, I can talk to my person, because if you have a Wi-Fi, you're messaging with everybody. Sorry, I have a developer trying to call my phone. I'll call you back. We have another question from, what advice do you have for students trying to secure a job despite the challenges? I think also there we need to say is just network, because like I said, connect with your teachers, and whenever they hear from designers like I did for my office, stay in touch with everybody, or say, I'm looking for something, because I'm a connector. I like to meet, help other people out and stuff like that. And just, even if they're not hiring at that time, they'll say, thank you so much for being interested, but I'm just not ready right now, but we're going to keep you in mind. And, they'll probably reach out if you've already made that great first impression. So don't be discouraged, because everything is just more practice.
I was going to actually weigh in. Residential right now is still booming. It's booming. Residential and multifamily, we're still rocking and rolling. Commercial is where it's been hit right now. Is the commercial and hospitality. That's what's been hit. So yeah, even hospitality has had to pivot to residential. Residential is booming because people are stuck at home, and they're either, oh, you know what, I think I want to redo this or freshen it up, or I need an addition to the house because there's not enough people, there's not enough space here, or I need to go buy a new house. So residential right now, we are rocking and rolling. So that's,
yeah, that's so true. Actually, we're having to turn away clients right now. We've got 18 active in all different phases and 12 that are in the pipeline. And I'm just like, can we please wait till 2021 to break ground or find that lot? Because, unless that, or we've got to sign it off and you got to give me some money so I can hire Iwana full time, to make this work. We've got another question. Lisa, you mentioned you like seeing the design process on portfolios. How much of the project research should be placed on the portfolio?
Not a ton. I would say that a lot of times I've seen a lot of the portfolios where the project research it's essentially, it's almost just kind of one page or half a page, and that's how it's actually laid out. So I wouldn't say a ton. It wouldn't be a ton, because I really do want to see what your final product is and what your what you came to. So that's what I would say.
And Ashlyn made the comment, even hospitalities had to pivot to residential, which is true, but it's also, they're possibly taking on other stuff. But the residential business, another thing to think about is with COVID and people not traveling, is they've got a lot more money. If they're not traveling to Europe with the whole family, that's thousands of dollars that they'd say, well, let's invest that in the home. We were willing to spend it on a lavish European vacation, but that's not happening this year. So let's treat ourselves and do our homes. But like we've been saying, and check out all the studio tours, because you may go through a path of different stuff, like Adam Nash said, to figure out where you go in your career. To add to that question from Hannah, thank you, Hannah. How much editing is too much editing? In your opinion, is there a perfect length for a portfolio?
Yes. Yes. Kathryn, let me think about this for a second. I need to kind of count it
No
in
worries.
my head. But I'm thinking, I mean, I'm going to want to see probably, if this is just your schoolwork, probably it's usually going to be about four projects in there. And then maybe, now hand sketching is always wonderful if you actually are. I'm a sucker for that though. I am a sucker for an artist. I mean, but so if you do have, you just happen to be really good, you're a really good artist, throw that in there. Throw that in the back. Those are just some of my hand sketches. So those are always just beneficial to see. But I don't want, I'm not going to sit there and go through a ginormous ton of work. We're going to want to see, if you have a ginormous ton of work, basically maybe, scale it down to your top 5 favorites, your top picks, and that, really are slick and they're put together well, and you put the time to put them together. And so that it's essentially, okay, here's this project, here's this project, here's this project, that type of thing.
And I was going to say, I think, use what you've already done in your school. And if you have time in between, finding your graduation and finding your job, build on that more, give yourself more. I remember using our floor plans that were the hotel layouts and then coloring them and then building like a digital mood board and actually picking furniture pieces for those, because I knew Paul was hospitality. And I go, well, here's 4 totally different styles of hospitality design. So I focused on hospitality for him. But if it's a multifaceted firm like an HKS, depending on if the position says so or not, I would definitely say, focus towards what the company obviously does. Like, it seems kind of obvious, but they'll see that and they'll go, oh, wow, you really took that into consideration. Sorry, I did skip over a question. What are good questions to ask the person that is interviewing you? Mine would be, do you have dogs? Because I feel like dog people are good people, and that kind of weeds out a bunch.
Yeah,
it's true. I love cat people too.
I know, right? I know. Of course, I have 3 dogs and 2 cats.
Mine's sleeping on the floor over here, thankfully not barking.
Oh, goodness. What are some good questions to ask?
What are you working on right now?
Yeah.
What are you expecting of me?
Exactly. What would be the expectations of me? What's my position? If it hasn't been basically clarified, then yes, ask that. And then essentially, yes, if I'm going to, how is the firm? But I'm hesitating on this because when we hire for need.
Yeah.
So we hire in, this senior designer needs another person on her team. This, so we don't actually hire in somebody to float. We hire, or if we needed another CAD person, they're going to hire in for that. Or if, or if it's accounting or things like that. So we hire in for a specific position. So you hopefully should know what your position is that you're actually interviewing for. I would think that you should know that. But if you get in there and you don't, and yeah, that would definitely be a question to ask. How is your firm set up? Are y'all set up in teams? Are you, how is that? But this is also something that you should basically look at their website and dig in and, see if you can figure out some of that so that you're pretty confident. Short bio.
I would say really quick, just coming from a small business owner standpoint, me and 2 other people, this is up to you, but I would say, I don't think it's rude if it's a very small, more casual type, like you're literally the one person first helping this designer. I would say, do you expect me to get your coffee and dry cleaning? Because I would say that I don't want to work there. And that's me personally, but if you can ask it in a very respectful way of knowing what your obligations and expectations are, I wouldn't want to work for Devil Wears Prada boss. Can't travel. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that the question that Kathryn asked, it would be a smart thing to do. If you can get to the heart of that question that Kathryn asked, are you talking about getting to the heart though, that's going to be a hard thing. I mean, if, you know, it is, because at the heart of the question of like whether or not you're going to get a good boss or not, you're not necessarily going to know when you interview. You're not.
For sure.
If there is, now, I mean, you're just not. Now, if you get into a situation and you find out that that is not a good boss, then remember, you have the ability to go find another job. You know, don't get locked into something where you're miserable. Don't do it to yourself. You know, yes, you're young, you're starting out, but there's other people out there that are nice and that are good to work for. You know, don't stay in, I'm going to get on my like little soapbox. You know, don't stay in a miserable relationship. You know, because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen where, you know, they're getting there and they're just really working for somebody that is not a good fit. The person is not a good boss. Oh, shall we say they're toxic? Whatever. You know, it's the same thing with clients. Sometimes we get into situations with clients where we go, okay, yeah, this isn't going to work. We're going to need to back out of this. And so just be aware that if you do happen to get even if it's a dream job, they're going to be sometimes people just don't clash, and you know, or you clash with somebody, and obviously it's obviously you don't want to. You want to be the one that is
right.
one that is you know, that is actually going to be the go-getter and all of that. But you will be trained to be a good question, or is there a standard? No, there is not. The question is, when asking how are you going to be trained, or is there a standard? There is no standard at all, unless you got into a really, really big firm. Okay, and I'm talking like HKS or something. You know, they would have a standard for training, because the training's going to be different. It depends. For example, at our firm, all of our procedures are done one way. We have a set of software, and so you know, all the proposals, all the invoices, all of that is done one way, and that is something that is trained. But how you actually design and interact and all of that, every senior designer has a different style. And so that is something that is actually done when you get under that particular. We actually do hire from within, and it's great when our girls can actually cross-train. They like work for me as a senior, and then they go to work with another one of the seniors, because even though the procedures are all the same, every designer is going to have a different style and a different viewpoint in the way that they work. So you can learn from whoever. Now, here's another thing. If you get into a job and you are just the intern, or you're just the starting off and you're the gopher and you're just running around, you know, and basically you're the one that's actually getting samples and picking up things and all of that is good opportunity to learn, because doing that, you're going to learn the design district, you're going to learn your sources, all of that stuff that you actually need to know. That's how you learn it. And so starting there, and if you don't have good training, or you're just thrown into the deep end, okay, I am going to tell a story. I got to Dallas Design Group. I actually interned there. I was getting my second degree in interior design, and I was running my own firm, and I was working full time, and I was going to school full time. And they told me, you have to go get an internship. And I said, are you kidding me? I do not have time to go work for somebody for free. I am slammed. And they're like, well, do you want to graduate? I was like, yes, I do. And they're like, yeah, you got to go get an internship for this class. I'm fine. So I ended up actually at Dallas Design Group. That's where I interned at. And when I got there, I was still still, I was still just, starting off on that kind of stuff because Dallas Design Group, we are heavily into construction. My firm is heavy in construction. We do a ton of construction stuff. That's what we're known for, and that's what we do. Now, is that something I had been taught in school and that I knew every single step to figure it out? No, it's not. It is not. And I remember they threw me in there, and because I was an older employee, they put me with the owner of the company, the principal of the firm. And I was like, really soon after there, she's like, oh, here's this bathroom, go do it. And I was like, okay. That was it. That was all she said. It was just like, okay, hey, I needed this bathroom, just go do it. And I was like, all right. And then I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Well, so what I started doing a lot of Googling. I started actually calling. I called some of my people that I knew that actually had taught at school. I actually started basically, going through the tile room, going, okay, I started reaching out to reps. So I basically figured out how to do this and came up with a product for her, and gave it to her. But I didn't say, oh, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? She was she owns the firm. She's the principal of the firm. I figured it out. And now it would be better if you actually had training. I train my girls, but and I train, but I'm a trainer. I come from a background of corporate training and theater, so I'm a trainer, and I am going to be very training oriented. You will find different people in different places. You'll find some that there's a set training section, some that there is no training, some that you are just tossed into the deep end, or some you can't do anything without the proper procedures. It's a grab bag. So you just have to be prepared for what you're going, for what comes. And try to pivot, use your resources, maybe use your ASID colleagues, maybe it's that person that you met, at this, of, hey, this is what's going on, how, what are some resources, how do I get through this? This is why it's important to actually have this group of somebody that you can call and talk to that could actually give you some good advice.
Lisa, just to piggyback off that before we get to our next question, don't worry, we're not going to miss the provisional employment question, is, back to the toxic boss thing, when you have these bad moments or those bosses that maybe weren't qualified or whatever, whatever that may be, it's all learning. And I now, with my own company, say, that's what I don't want to do to my girls. Which we'll have boys one day too, but in our office. So I think that's another good thing. Just like I always joked, there was this one really, really strong teacher who rubbed a lot of students the wrong way. It was very scary. She was really strict on her grading. And I go, that's training you for possibly your first crazy boss. And if you can get through the class with them, and I say that not like educators are bad, but it's just to each their own personality, how they handle tension. But it teaches you. And I think, also to comment off of the, you break up with your clients. That's what I use the phrase all the time. I go, oh man, I think we might need to break up with them. Heather, how are we going to handle this? And so we talk internally, and I've personally opened up a lot with her. That's why we have an NDA and all this stuff, but it's also to train her so that she doesn't have to reinvent the wheel when she is her own boss one day and she's running her own company. So that puts a lot of trust, and some people may not be that. They may be very close to the vest and quiet, and it's only HR and the business developer or the CFO that work on that. But some may also, so that MBA, they might really want you because they know, well, the business of it. And the business of design is its own animal, and there's so much to it. So jumping on to, what do you think about provisional employment? Work somewhere for a month and see for both you and an employer, if it's good, then you proceed with employment. That's what we do. I put Heather on a provisional full-time for 30 days, and then we did a review, and then we did 90 days to become full salary. And we had already discussed all of the stuff in person. So we, it was all very crystal clear, and she knew what her expectations were. And, I wanted to see if she was happy. If, we do reviews every 6 months. Sometimes we're a few months late. We have been lately, but just to talk about if she's liking what she's doing or do I need to bring somebody in. So Lisa, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, we actually do the provisional. We'll do a provisional, and it'll be either 30, 60, or 90. Usually 30, and then it's a reevaluation, and then 60 and 90. So yes, we actually do that as well before you come in on full time. And so, but the way Kathryn's talking, Kathryn is what we would call a very, very good boss. And you would be lucky to have a Kathryn. I think because I've worked with a lot of other senior designers and see a lot of other ways that people operate. And so look for a Kathryn.
And we're not hiring right now, but we definitely will need more help in the future. So y'all know how to find me, connect.
I think we're actually at 3.
Yeah, we've got, if anybody has any more questions, we don't have another event until 4. I know, Lisa, your time's precious, so if you need to hop off, but if anybody thinks of anything, you know, you can always contact us. You know, I think we covered all of the questions. So I hope everyone found this insightful and helpful. Oh, we have one more message, sorry. Great job, guys. Thanks, Laura, for helping run this. So great to see all of those of you on camera. That's great. And you're using the tools. Good job, Kaya, or Kira. Sorry, I don't know how you pronounce your name. And then for those of you with your great professional shots, like headshots, it looks wonderful. So good luck and tune in at 4 for our next live event. Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Good luck.